Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I do random sports picks for fun. You also might be surprised as to who I'm picking in the NBA today. If you just can't wait and you want to save yourself some time, check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's get into some picks for the 19th. First game I have for you, it is going to be Phoenix at Detroit. The betting opened up with Detroit as the 8.5-point favorites with the total at 216. Since then, Detroit's now minus 10 against the spread with the total dropping down to an even 212. Currently, Detroit's laying 550 on the money line, and at the moment, 65% of the bettors think Phoenix will cover the massive spread. Speaking of the Suns, they're facing a Detroit team who's covering just 47% of their games overall. The Pistons are also covering just 48% versus teams allowing more than 102 a game. In addition to all that, the Detroit Pistons have failed to cover in their last 3 consecutive games. When it comes to the total points, Detroit's games have gone under the line in 3 of their previous 4. On the other side, Phoenix games have gone under the total posted points in 4 of their last 4. All that said, I'm in full agreement with the bettors when it comes to the spread, and I'm taking the Phoenix Suns plus 10, getting the job done against the number. When it comes to the total points, I'm once again in full agreement with the bettors as I am taking the under 212. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm taking the Detroit Pistons, winning this one by about 9 points. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Phoenix plus 20 as the first pick of my 10-point super teaser. Next game, Portland at Miami. The betting opened up with Miami as the 6.5-point favorites with the total at 216. Since then, Miami's now minus 5.5 against the spread with the total dropping all the way down to 211.5. Currently, Miami's laying 225 on the money line, and at the moment, 59% of the bettors think Portland will get the job done. Speaking of Portland, they're covering just 42% overall in all games. They've also covered just 15 of 37 on the road and just 13 of 33 as the underdog. In addition to those numbers, Portland covered just 9 of 25 as the official road underdog. And when Portland faces teams allowing 99 to 102 a game, they're covering just 30% of their games in that category as well. They're facing a Miami team who's done a fine job against the spread. Overall, they cover a solid 62% in all games. Miami's covering 64% of their games at home and 65% as the favorite. Even more impressive, the Heat cover a staggering 80% of their games at the current point spread. In addition to that, Miami Heat cover an impressive 77% as the official home favorite. More recently, Miami has successfully covered the spread in their last 7 straight games. When it comes to the total, Portland's games have gone under the total posted points in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready to make my picks for this game, and I am taking the Miami Heat minus 5.5, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total, I'm taking the under 211.5. When it comes to the money line, I think Miami wins this one outright in a close one. Next game, Indiana at Toronto. The betting opened up with Indiana as the 4-point favorites with the total at 199.5. Since then, Toronto's now minus 3 against the spread with the total points dropping down to an even 196. Currently, Toronto's laying 150 on the money line, and at the moment, 64% of the money's on the Raptors to get the job done. Speaking of Toronto, they're facing an Indiana team who struggled against the number as of late. The Pacers have failed to cover in 3 of their last 4 most recent games. They're also covering just 38% of their games on the road this year. In addition to those numbers, Indiana's only been able to cover just 6 of 18 times in games at the current point spread. They're facing a Toronto team who's successfully covered in 2 of their last 3. When it comes to the total points, Toronto games have gone under the line in 3 of their last 4. On the other side, Indiana games have gone under the total posted points in 4 of their last 4. All that said, I'm once again in full agreement with the bettors, and I'm picking Toronto minus 3, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 196. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think Toronto wins. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Toronto plus 7 as the second pick of my 10-point teaser. Next game, Minnesota plus 3 at New Orleans. Totals at 208. Currently, the Pelicans are laying 160 on the money line, and at the moment, 65% of the money's on New Orleans to get the job done. Speaking of the Pelicans, they've had some recent success against the number, successfully covering in out of their last 4 games. They're facing a Minnesota team who not only failed to cover in their first 2 matchups head-to-head, but also covers just 40% of their games on the road. The T-Wolves have also covered just 9 of 19 games at the current point spread. In addition, Minnesota covered just 10 of 22 as the official road underdog. This Minnesota squad has also covered just 9 of 22 versus teams under 500. On a lighter note, both teams' games have gone over the total posted points in 3 of their previous 4 respectively. All that said, I'm once again in full agreement with the bettors, and I'm taking New Orleans -3, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 208. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think the Pelicans will win this one at home. I'm also adjusting the line and taking the over 198 as the 3rd pick of my 10-point teaser. Next game, Sacramento at San Antonio. The betting opened up with San Antonio as the 16-point favorites with the total at 204. Since then, San Antonio's -14 against the spread with the total points dropping down to 202.5. Currently, the Spurs are heavily favored, laying $12.50 on the money line, and at the moment, 61% of the money's on San Antonio to get the job done. Speaking of the Spurs, they've struggled against the number as of late, failing to cover in their last 2 games. Not only did they fail to cover in their previous 3 matchups with Sacramento, but the Spurs are also covering just 46% of their games at the current point spread. They're facing a Sacramento team who covers a solid 70% against teams allowing less than 99 a game. The Kings have been good against the number, successfully covering in 2 of their last 3 games. When it comes to the total points, the Spurs' last 3 games have all gone over the total posted points. All that said, I got to stick with the numbers here as I am picking the Sacramento Kings +14, getting the job done. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 202.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I still think the Spurs win this one by double digits. Next and final game for the show, Cleveland at the LA Lakers. The betting opened up with Cleveland as the 10-point favorites with the total points at 224. Since then, Cleveland's now -11.5 against the spread with the total points dropping down to 222.5. Currently, the Cavs are laying 900 on the money line, and at the moment, 52% of the money's on the Cavs to get the job done. Speaking of Cleveland, they've not only failed to cover in their first matchup with LA, but they're also covering just 30% in the second game of a back-to-back. The Cavs have also covered just 14 of 33 games on the road this year. When it comes to the total points, Cleveland games have gone under the line in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready to make my final picks, and I'm taking the LA Lakers +11.5, getting the job done against the number. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 222.5. When it comes to the money line cash, I think Cleveland wins this one outright by about 10. I'm also adjusting the line and taking the LA Lakers +21.5 as the 4th and final pick of my 10-point teaser. Just a reminder, my 10-point Sweetheart Super Teasers pay 5 to 6 and get graded as a loss should any game result in a push. You can find this exotic wager in several online sports books and in the state of Delaware. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page, predictions and sports picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.